welcome back to SquashWarp, I guess I will call this, our playthrough of Kerbal Space Program with a ton of mods. And we are unlocking aerodynamics because I want to build a science sampling airplane. So here's my construction process, which I usually am going to be editing out, but with these planes, I always, as soon as I get access to some early aerodynamic parts, what I like to do is try to build a plane that can fly all over the place and bring a pilot and a scientist. So the thing is that we only currently have pods that have pointy ends, right? So, well, and the regular command pods, but that's not much better. So we've got kind of a front-back design, and if I put the tail surface on the back pod, then the scientist can't get out. If I put the scientist in the front pod, then the pilot's facing backwards, which feels funny to me. So I ended up with this sort of dual tail design just to kind of get around the problem of blocking the hatch for the scientist. I need them to be able to get out, plant flags, and do surface experiments and stuff. So I don't, at this point in my construction process, I'm thinking, will this fly? Why am I doing it like this? We're going to need a little bit of more control surfaces, but at this point I'm thinking, if this flies, it's going to make me laugh, but all of my center of mass and center of pressure indicators are saying positive things about how it's going to work. So here I am just moving the experiments closer to where the scientist will actually be so that they can reset them, take the material. I always want to do this, and I often don't have the patience to actually fly this mission. So this is going to be quite an enduring, and that was a little pause where I go and I look up Knights of the Round Table. This plane is henceforth known as Percival, and it's on the Knights of the Round Table, but it makes me think of the guy who found Pluto. And we've got Duddrin and Stachell Kerman. Stachell is our scientist, and at this point I'm realizing, hey, these small gear don't have any brakes, so it's my first revert of the save, but it's honestly just to save time. We could recover it and then go back to the spaceplane hangar, but you know what? This is faster. Adding in the other type of landing gear, making sure that they have brakes, because we need at least one set of brakes. And for some reason I decided to put my wheelbase smaller. And here we go. Let's try that again. Got all our control surfaces set, and now the next thing to do is to make sure that Stachell Kerman can get back in the pod, since we haven't invented ladders, and this is her high-tech solution to that problem. Slide down the outside of the command pod. That little flag area is this special sticky grip sliding goo flag. I just made that up. And now I'm noticing, first of all, that the cockpit seems to have two cockpits in it, and that, if I go into, well, I just kind of tend to get confused which is the front sometimes if I switch camera views. But here we are. Takeoff goes smoothly. We've got all kinds of science, and you know what? We've got so much science just from taking off that it's time to turn around in this beautifully unlikely design and come back and see if we don't, well, kill our Kerbals. Because this is the test, and the landing goes so smoothly. I'm now reassured, and I feel like everything will be okay, right? So we took our science experiments while we were in flight. Now we got to get out, reset them, and also do our on-the-shore experiments, because I don't think we've quite done these with all of our equipment yet. Stachell Kerman hanging on to the side of her craft, seeing the goo wobble around, determining that spacesuits were unnecessary, and taking samples of the dirt. Resetting everything, because that's her special power as a scientist. Also, the power to reach the materials bay from all the way over there. At this point, instead of actually just taking off, I just accelerate for a little bit and, enjoy the sunshine. We're just going to roll. The grasslands used to kind of start around here, if I remember correctly. So at this point I'm thinking, okay, are they coming? We gotta make it up this hill without accidentally taking off the end of the hill. Whoops. Well, we made it now. Alright. All aboard. And now it's time for the Highlands. Gently. Very nice. Whoa. Definitely looked like I was going to go into that ridge there. This flies quite well, and it's quite comfortable. I'm really enjoying the visual mods that I have working. And hey, right now there's no conflicts, and everything seems to be pretty stable in the save. Fingers crossed. Right? So, this whole, as we land in the Highlands, I figured I'd talk about what's inspiring this particular saga, and what I realized is that I've been playing Kerbal Space Program since about 0.23, 0.24, and had always wanted to try out some of the things that I was seeing before I even bought the game, when I was kind of thinking, well, what do I want to spend the money? And I was watching Scott Manley's Interstellar Quest. And so, and I've been playing the game, I've tried various mods and done a bunch of things, but on my laptop that I was playing on with the 32-bit version, I could never get that same set of mods to work, and years have passed, right? So that was 2013, and I realized recently that I never did my Interstellar mission. So I'm taking some cues from those videos. If you've never seen Scott Manley's Interstellar Quest for some reason, they are hilarious and informative, and kind of the source of my interest in Kerbal Space Program. And I realized I'd never actually given it a shot. And now a lot of the things that required mods at the time are just stock part of the game. Re-entry heating, more realistic shape-based aerodynamic forces. Nice screenshot moment there. So I finally got a setup of mods working that I can be happy with, and that will allow me to explore the whole solar system and have a giant tech tree to try to unlock. Stachell Kerman setting a flag in the Highlands. Somehow avoiding the Highlander joke. I've been just making a reference, although she is still sliding down the hill. I don't know. Maybe she has slippery feet. That's how she's able to do all of her. Oh, okay, we've ascertained also that the EVA parachutes mod is working. Alright, Stachell, come on back in. She forgot to reset the materials bay, but I don't realize that until we land in the mountains. So, past self, I wish I could warn you. Oh, and that's when I staged the parachutes instead of the engines, and this, I'm realizing I need to set that back up in case I need those parachutes. Thankfully, we weren't moving in it, because we don't have an engineer that can repack them. And so, moving right along to the mountains, and at this point I'm figuring, we'll get some flying over the mountains science, but this plane doesn't really feel equipped to land in the mountains, so we can do kind of a mountain science flyby, go and land somewhere flat, and then fly over the water, and then do just a little bit more science with that. Enjoying. And I don't know how much it comes through in the video, but I definitely felt, that kind of... Obviously the real thing is the real thing, but it's fun to fly around in mountains. I'm originally from a mountainous place and living in sort of a woodland place now, so I don't see mountains, and playing this game is always relaxing in that way. And here's where I kind of see, hey, there's a flat spot. Stachell is suspicious that we'll be able to pull this off. I don't know what's happening. I forgot to edit that out. Stachell is not sure that we can make this safely. Duddrin is like, what are you talking about? I just need to kill some velocity, do some wide banks, and we'll come down, and, we just got to make sure that we come in level, because if we... Oh. So, as breakages go, I'd point out that I added those last little wingtip spots at the last minute. So one half of the plane looks like how I meant it 2 seconds before launch, and the other half looks like how I meant it 5 seconds before launch. Stachell is reserving judgment because she's got work to do. Getting all the things. So many things have changed since version 0.23 when the science career and all of that stuff was first coming out. That it's obviously it's its own experience. It's different, but before I go into kind of more planet packs, all the different mods that are out now that I want to try, I wanted to make sure that I actually got to do these. Just because I saw them in a video, years ago, and everything's changed. Everything actually works a lot better now. It doesn't take being so good with fixing compatibility in order to play with these mods. Duddrin is having a difficult time keeping this plane stable. He's finding some interesting stable configurations if he banks to the right of it. But we don't have the climb here at altitude. And I don't know how quickly the jets are affected by altitude. I know like the propeller plane would definitely struggle to get up to high altitude. Like where I'm from, all the small planes have to kind of struggle. Duddrin and Stachell Kerman on their way home. If this were, a drama, they would. I was gonna say, well, they'd fall in love, but first they would hate each other, right? I don't know. Maybe he's flying too close to the mountains. She thinks it's not safe. Imagining the Kerbal relationships, right? Maybe they've been arguing all trip, but now that sunset is happening, it's gotten all romantic. Not that they can see each other, But this is just the beginning of the saga, no need to rush them. Coming over the space center, which is beautiful in the night dark. Hey, there's Minmus. I was in target mode. Trying to come in for a safe landing. You can see I'm having some trouble keeping things straight here. So far, I think the only parts that are on this plane that are not from stock are those B9 fins. Yeah, so I spent so much time lining up my landing that we never slowed down, and Stachell perhaps maybe feeling bad for Duddrin, who has to do a toga maneuver, suggest, maybe we should land at the Space Center anyway because we have some more science we need to do. Which is nice of her. And safe touchdown. Yeah, that one revert because of brakes being my only reload is a good trend. I hadn't really decided how seriously I want to take the no revert kind of self-imposed rule. If reverts are easy, there's a lot of different opinions on it. A lot of people will go with when you're going to do a career, especially if people are going to watch. You don't want to do any reverts. Duddrin having some trouble keeping us parked on the tracking station here. Come on, get up there. Anyway, I keep the revert and the reload option available because I don't know what kind of mod bugs I might end up with having a lot of mods. It's kind of a habit from when everything was much less stable as well. So we've got to now kind of work our way through the whole Space Center. I always mean to do this, but early on it's like, well, I could build a tube and roll around. You know, before wheels are invented, it's really tough. But once we get our first plane, we can do some oh my god, we're seeing inside Stachell's head. Zoom out. We can do some amazing science with this setup. And kind of out of habit, I'm not really transmitting everything. I have a transmitter, but you know, the habit built up from when I was using remote tech more. I don't have remote tech on this save since there's some stock functionality for that kind of thing, and there's enough challenge, I think. For now, we'll see what happens. And Duddrin really struggling to get up onto the crawlerway. There we go. I've noticed that because the torque on the capsules is on, you can't back up correctly. So like if you're going to roll down a hill and you turn the wheel in order to, you know, change direction as you roll back, the wheel turns, but the capsule torques actually are more powerful than the wheel turning, so you'll actually turn the opposite direction. You're always just kind of rotating along the direction that the capsules are going, which is funny. I could just turn off the capsule torque, but it's not annoying enough. And I'm sure the capsule torque is helping to keep it stable when I fly. Isn't the Space Center so pretty at night? You know, that's the other thing, playing in Science Sandbox, which, you know, used to be career, you know? Playing with all the buildings already unlocked, it just takes some of the focus off of the earning of the money and more just, you know, exploring. It's nice not to worry about the money, but boy, is this a really pretty place at night. Haven't really... Because once you've unlocked all these buildings, right, why would you be wandering around in the Space Center other than just for, you know, your own enjoyment? Duddrin wanted to take a dip in the pool at the administration building, but Stachell insists we got to take all of the science directly to the R&D center and turn it in and get going. So we've now got over 400 science. Most of it is from that one trip. So that single plane, without, I don't even have any extra science experiments because of mods. So at this point, I'm starting to suspect maybe I was supposed to turn my science multiplier down, and I should probably check Community Tech Tree and Interstellar and Surface Science and all these things. But at the same time, let's, you know, we'll see. We'll learn as we go. I added an alarm for a week later because I decided as a further limitation, because I don't want to unlock the whole tech tree so quickly. So instead, I want to set an alarm. I can, once I finish unlocking a whole row of the tech tree, or a column, I guess it would be, then I need to wait a week or 10 days or something like that before I can start the next one. I feel like that'll force me to actually use all the parts that I unlock from one set before I move on to new ones and get all confused about what everything does. Alright, and now we are finally into our playthrough proper. We got through the kind of early game science spamming. This is our first attempt at a unmanned orbital flight called the Alligator. First reptile name starts with an A. And this probe is designed to do, well, what the other probe that I had launched previously was designed to do, but also to kind of do an orbital flight. But since we don't have the contracts for it, we don't really care if we get the achievement or anything like that. We just want to be able to get one set of science from In Space Low over Kerbin and one set of science from In Space High. And with those KW rocketry pure white fuel tanks, I think it looks quite nice. It's all the same diameter. It's you know, just appreciating the simple beauty of this game, especially with the clouds in the background and the scatterer mod doing its effect with the sun. Oh, this was such a mistake. I accidentally transmitted my science, and I really didn't mean to do that. I couldn't get it to stop. So a lot of that potentially recoverable science kind of got transmitted. Although we'll see how much that matters later on. Science here and now kind of stop and go as we get up to 250 kilometers, but now we're in high altitude, ready to do the rest of our experiments and collect everything into the main container. Just taking a moment to admire how pretty Kerman looks. I have Scatterer, as I said, and stock visual enhancements, and then I have a bunch of the settings changed for performance reasons, but I like the effect that I ended up with. It's the first time I've really been able to kind of have visual mods without really suffering as far as performance goes. Persistent rotation as well, which I'm not used to. I'm surprised every time, and it's actually, I think that I've gotten in the habit of designing my craft with the crutch of being able to stop their rotation with time acceleration, so this is going to be good for me to learn how to do that, and everything explodes. But you know, that was kind of as intended. The parts of the vehicle that were designed to survive re-entry survive. All we got to do is deploy the parachute, which is now not attached to the probe core, and it's a failure. All the science is gone, and only the science that I accidentally transmitted. Oh, that's so pretty. Only the science that I accidentally transmitted survived. So, alligator attempt number 2. This craft is exactly the same, but I did a little test which I cut out just on the pad to determine that what happened was the KW fairing is also a decoupler, which I used to know, but I had forgotten. And I must have set it in the vehicle assembly building wrong. I tried to set it the right way, but I got it backwards. And, oh, Planet Shine also, as I see the kind of the blue glow on the bottom of the rocket. So, exact same mission. The real plume effects, making it feel very real. Getting our science done before we even finished with our orbit, and I just burn until we've got a high apoapse. I don't need to worry about circularizing. We just wait until we're above 250, do all the science that we can, and I've made action group number 7 to bring the science into the science container so that we can safely let the Mystery U containers be destroyed. I raised our periapse a bit so that our re-entry would perhaps be less violent, but then of course I proceeded to turn around and burn the engine as a braking maneuver, and I'm thinking now that perhaps I should have just left it full, because it made it a lot less aerodynamically stable to have an empty tank at the bottom. It really wants to flip around, but... And of course we still don't have a hold on the SAS. For some reason, we're coming in much faster and much hotter, and I am wildly rotating and turning the capsule, trying to even out the heat. You can see the fairing starts to overheat when I'm not moving it wildly in all directions, but worried I'm going to run out of electricity. But finally, we make it in. I don't know why that re-entry was so much hotter. It might have come from a higher orbit, or perhaps I came in too steep after that braking burn. There we go. And deploying the... so what I did is I deployed the service bay as a brake, because it has so much drag when it's open, and then right-click deployed the fairing so that it would open without jettisoning the probe core, so we can open the parachute for a nice gentle glide down back to Kerman. And we'll see what science we got in the future. Thanks for watching.